Deeper within the dungeon, something even more terrifying lies sealed behind a door. Meanwhile, upon returning to the guild, Rio notices the hall filled with adventurers celebrating, and wonders what the occasion might be. Hugh, on the other hand, wishes he could join them, but he is still burdened with paperwork. He notes that researchers from the royal capital will soon arrive to investigate the recent incident. Although the dungeon will remain closed for a month, Hugh suspects the aftermath of the attack will prove far more troublesome. Later, Rio meets his friends who explain the celebration. Niels recalls how Abel's swordsmanship ended the Goblin King, perfectly timed with Lynn's ultimate spell. Ito corrects him, saying it was Bullet Rain, one of the most powerful wind spells, which only Abel managed to dodge. Abel soon arrives and reveals he used the sword skill, Perfect Shadow, capable of evading any ranged attack. Their conversation shifts when Lynn and Rihia arrive, teasing Abel for spending so much time with Rio. Lynn then questions Rio about his rumored ability to conjure ice walls mid-air. He confirms he can reach 40 meters above ground, astonishing her, though he explains it required years of practice. Something Lynn finds remarkable, though she struggles to grasp how he casts without incantations. Before long, Niels reminds him the food will run out, cutting the conversation short. While Lynn struggles to understand Rio's unconventional use of incantations, Abel notes that Rio can even cast spells without them, an idea almost unthinkable to most magicians. The next morning, Rio finds his friends idle at the job board. With the dungeon closed and no contracts available, he hires them himself to collect magic copper ore from an abandoned mine. He offers fair payment, with a bonus for each ore recovered, but makes their safety the priority. They accept the task, though it won't count as an official guild mission. Later, as Rio returns to his room, he sees soldiers harassing a girl on the street. To his surprise, Dan, the man he had once disciplined, stands up to defend her. Each time the knights attempt violence, they stumble inexplicably, leaving even Dan confused. Their aggression ends abruptly when Phelps intervenes. The soldiers warn him not to interfere, dismissing him as just an adventurer. Phelps calmly reveals that he is also a nobleman, specifically the heir to House Heinlein and captain of the White Brigade. His presence alone sends the knights fleeing. Commending Dan's courage, Phelps then turns to Rio, recognizing him as the mage Abel had spoken of so highly. Though Rio remains cautious, Phelps discreetly protects his secret, suggesting the knights had merely slipped. That evening at dinner, Abel joins Rio, who jokingly says he refuses to pay Abel's bill and insists that Abel, being younger, should be the one treating him. Abel refuses, teasing that Rio has more than enough money. Their banter turns playful, with Rio suggesting Abel must be headed to the red light district, catching him off guard. Pressed further, Abel admits Lynn harbors feelings for Warren, then regrets revealing too much. Rio finds the pairing unusual, but shrugs, noting that love takes many forms. When asked whether Abel is interested in Rihia, Abel vehemently denies it, prompting Rio to tease him for reacting like a child. Later, Abel reveals that investigators from the royal capital have arrived, but some corrupt knights under their guard have escaped. Assigned to track them down, he and Rio follow hooded men into an alley, where Rio swiftly subdues them with ice magic. Abel identifies them as C-rank adventurers from Jaclair and turns them over to the guards. Elsewhere, Phelps faces a revenge attack from the knights, but is saved when Sheena burns them down with fire magic. Elsewhere, Hugh meets the research delegation, led by Clive Staples and Earl Harold Lawrence, the new head of the expedition appointed by the king. They demand the dungeon be reopened, citing full royal authority. Hugh warns that the guild will not be held responsible should harm come to the town or its adventurers. Reluctantly, he consents, provided they accept these terms. Meanwhile, Rio heads to the quarters where Abel's party stays and notices their cafeteria. Though before he can step inside, a young woman approaches asking for directions to the guild. She insists on delivering an important letter, so Rio guides her in. The letter, addressed to Abel, comes from Professor Hilarion, requesting his support in assisting the court magicians with their dungeon investigation. Abel explains that although the dungeon is officially sealed, an investigation is underway. His concern grows as he recalls an A-rank party that entered after the last title bore and never returned, led by a warrior nearly at S-rank. Their disappearance leaves the dangers inside the dungeon completely unknown. Rio quietly decides it is wiser to stay cautious and excuses himself for his meal. The girl then introduces herself as Natalie Schwarzkopf, from the well-known family of water magicians. Lynn shows interest in her abilities, but Natalie admits she is not as remarkable as her lineage suggests. Curious, Lynn asks about a spell capable of forming an ice wall at a distance, but Natalie has never heard of it. The group reveals that Rio can perform such magic, surprising her. Abel points out that even if the four of them fought Rio together, they would stand no chance. He reassures them that Rio is not the type to harm others, and advises Natalie that if she ever needs help, she can seek Rio at the guild's room number 10 or in the library. Soon after, Abel's team joins the investigators, guided by Professor Hilarion, who unveils a device capable of tracking mana traces. Abel shows interest, though admits it is Rio who is truly fascinated by alchemy. Meanwhile, Rio's friends return with the ore, earning generous rewards. He notes that the dungeon has reopened, but only 2 adventurers ranked D and above. Deeper inside, Abel's team explores cautiously. After 3 days, they reach the 7th floor without encountering monsters. Researchers speculate that creatures from the Great Tidal Boar originated from beyond the 38th floor. Soon after, the team discovers a strange door. Believing it to be a gate to another place, they set up equipment to investigate. But as soon as their magic device touches the gate, everyone is instantly swallowed by darkness and vanishes without a trace. In the next moment, Abel and his comrades find themselves swallowed by a dark abyss. They quickly confirm each other's safety, but confusion arises as Harold explains they have been relocated. At the same time, Clive and his team are transported elsewhere within the abyss, uncertain of what dangers may appear. While scouting the surroundings, Clive deduces they were teleported and suspects the gate is the source. Their earlier theory about the tidal bore originating from the 38th layer is now disproven. Clive realizes this discovery could be groundbreaking, even imagining it may lead to his promotion. But before he can dwell on it, strange sounds echo from behind. Elsewhere, Natalie and 2 mages struggle with a magic compass. Every reading disappears instantly, until it briefly shows the 40th floor before vanishing again. At that moment, Christopher Blatt arrives, representing the investigation and carrying orders from the king. He demands information, explaining that adventurers vanished before his eyes as soon as they crossed the dungeon entrance. Natalie confirms her compass detected multiple disappearances, with the last occurring on the 40th floor, a depth no one has reached before. Alarm spreads as the mage in charge reveals that Crimson Sword was among those escorting the missing group. Natalie devises a plan and rushes off, while the others send word to the guild. Soon after, Hugh learns of the incident and is urgently called to the dungeon entrance. Realizing Abel may be involved, he immediately departs, instructing his staff to remain on standby while withholding details from the guild until confirmation. Meanwhile, Rio visits the Grand Library, searching for records of eclipses and tidal bores. Lost among the countless volumes, he unexpectedly finds Sarah, who guides him to the archives. She reveals that every tidal bore in history was preceded by an eclipse, though this time it was a full eclipse, making it unusual. Their research also confirms that monsters from the recent tidal bore bore pale stones, suggesting they were newly spawned rather than long-lived. Rio points out the immense mana required for such a mass creation, and Sarah recalls old records mentioning pale stones in past events as well. Together, they resolve to examine these ancient texts further. Deep inside the abyss, Harold concludes that they were relocated by teleportation. Yet the aura around them feels unnatural. Rihia identifies it as similar to Sanctuary Square, where a holy barrier is said to block all forms of attack. Abel realizes they are trapped inside such a barrier. Lynn probes the area, detecting more than 1,000 humans and unfamiliar life forms nearby. Believing it to be Clive's group, they head in that direction. At the dungeon's surface, Christopher warns Hugh that the missing adventurers may already be on the 40th floor. Reaching such depths would normally be impossible, and without understanding the cause, sending more adventurers would be reckless. For now, they can only wait. Meanwhile, Clive and his party are attacked as purple flames rain from above. The attackers are revealed to be devils, creatures once thought immune to magic. Their sheer power overwhelms the adventurers until Abel's group arrives to reinforce them. Rihia confirms the monsters are devils, enemies of the gods and far beyond human strength. Despite their fear, the adventurers engage. To their surprise, long-range spells manage to wound the devils, disproving old records. Even so, their numbers and resilience push the adventurers to their limits. Amidst the chaos, Abel identifies a larger devil commanding the others. But when Rio warns that it is a demon prince, an immature form of a demon lord, Abel realizes the gravity of the threat. He recognizes it as the leader, believing that defeating it may end the fight. Leading his party forward, Abel cuts through several waves of devils with remarkable ease. Watching from a distance, Harold finally understands why the Crimson Sword Party has earned such a strong reputation. However, the tide begins to shift after several minutes of battle. Lin and Rihia exhaust their mana, leaving them vulnerable. And when they call for Warren's support, he reveals they are out of potions as well. Assessing the battlefield, Abel sees 6 devils remaining. Doubt creeps in as he wonders if they can prevail without the mage's support. At that moment, Abel realizes the immense danger and urges extreme caution. Resolute, he declares that he will handle the remaining devils himself, sparing the demon prince for later. Turning again to the battlefield, he recalls that this moment is far less terrifying than when they once faced the gaze of a griffin. Charging forward, he strikes down 2 more devils with his sword, but the demon prince finally steps forward, signaling a duel. The clash begins, and Abel quickly realizes the overwhelming disparity in power. The mages muster the last of their strength, casting their final spells, but the magic proves useless. Meanwhile, the other devils continue bombarding the party with purple fire, slowly breaking their defenses. Exhaustion sets in, and despair grows as they begin to accept the possibility of defeat. The demon prince charges, forcing Abel to unleash his hidden technique, Zero Turn, in an attempt to decapitate it. Yet the demon dodges at the last moment, striking Abel down and leaving him struggling to rise. Accepting his fate, Abel apologizes to Rihia for his weakness. The demon prepares to finish him when suddenly water drips from the ceiling, and Rio crashes down, landing firmly before them. Stunned, Abel asks why he is there. Rio confidently replies that he has come to save them and urges a retreat. Abel warns him of the demon prince's strength, but Rio scoffs, declaring that the creature is far too weak to be genuine. Unfazed, he advances, though Abel pleads for caution. The devils strike Rio with a long-range assault, but he blocks it effortlessly with his ice lance. In the next instant, he unleashes a water jet, decapitating the remaining devils in one strike. Witnessing his subordinates fall so easily, the demon prince grips his sword in frustration. But Rio only smirks, draws his ice blade, and states that it is time to finish this. Earlier, Natalie hurried into Rio's room, only to learn from his roommates that he was at the Northern Library. Grateful, she rushed out, but soon realized she didn't even know where it was, forcing her to turn back for directions. Eventually, she found the place and spotted Rio outside. Breathless, she told him that Abel and his team had gone missing inside the dungeon. Understanding the urgency, Rio summoned an ice card and suggested they talk as they moved. On the way, Natalie explained everything and revealed that Abel once told her to seek Rio's help if anything went wrong. Moved by his friend's trust, Rio decided to act immediately. When the guards tried to block him, he conjured 2 ice walls and broke through. Knowing the distress signal came from the 40th floor, he skipped the descent and plunged straight down using ice magic. There, Abel's group was on the brink of collapse. Facing the demon prince, Rio calmly drew his sword. The creature attacked, but its movements were slow. Too slow. With one swift strike, Rio beheaded it. Abel stood in disbelief as the demon reattached its head, still weaker than expected. Rio decided to test its limits. In an instant, over 100 water jets shredded the demon into countless fragments, even destroying its magic stone. When the battle ended, Abel expressed his gratitude, while Rio, as usual, brushed it off with a joke about being repaid in meals. Abel promised to treat him for a week. Rio ran to embrace Abel in relief. Soon after, Arthur from the Bureau of Royal Magicians arrived, thanking Rio for his help. But the victory came at a cost. Not everyone had survived. Abel proposed collecting the fallen devil's stones to aid the families of the dead. Rio agreed, but wondered why these monsters were called devils. Abel explained they hadn't appeared in the central provinces for centuries. The name reminded Rio of Leonor and Okuma, and he began questioning the difference between the two. He then mentioned sensing a strange field when descending, which seemed to vanish after the demon's defeat. Abel suggested it disappeared with the floor's guardian, and Rio noted that most dungeons behave that way. As they examined the remains, They found the devil's stones pitch black. Arthur recalled facing a similar creature long ago and admitted this was the first time he had seen such a stone. Ria added that even the temples held no records of them. Arthur explained that devils appeared out of nowhere, leading many to believe they wielded space-time magic. The revelation left Rio deep in thought. Elsewhere, another group of heroes gathers before a man-made altar when Leonor suddenly appears, sensing something unusual. Their leader steps forward, convinced she's the demon lord they were meant to summon. Confused, Leonor listens as they explain the altar was built through great sacrifice, said to call forth the demon lord. She wonders who would summon such a being. The boy introduces himself as Roman, a self-proclaimed hero determined to defeat her. Amused, Leonor decides to test him. The fight ends quickly. Roman is no match for her. She warns the others not to attack unless they wish to meet the same fate. Spotting a black jewel, she takes it as her reward for an otherwise dull battle. When Roman again calls her a demon lord, Leonor corrects him, saying there are even humans capable of rivaling her strength. She recalls her thrilling duel with Rio, shocking the group when they realize she isn't the demon lord after all. Before leaving, she tells Roman to grow stronger, so they can fight again someday, and casually adds that Rio is about 10,000 times stronger than he is. Meanwhile, Rio and his team encounter another group of adventurers from Lune. Arthur suspects they were hired to secure the path to the 11th floor. Abel realizes that multiple parties from the 10th and 11th floors were teleported to the 40th. Rio spots a strange black orb, the same anomaly he noticed earlier. Arthur examines it, noting its mana signature is faded, and seals it inside a barrier bag as evidence. On their way back, Abel thanks Rio again. Rio reminds him of his promised week of free meals and asks about the curry shop he mentioned. Abel agrees, laughing at Rio's playful threat not to forget. Outside, Hugh greets them in relief. Abel thanks Natalie for calling Rio, crediting her for saving their lives. Hugh is glad everyone's safe, but scolds Rio for ignoring the guards. Arthur steps in, explaining that Rio's actions saved the entire team. Shocked, Hugh decides to discuss it privately. Arthur later reveals they faced 50 devils and even a demon prince, defeated single-handedly by Rio. Amazed, Hugh admits he knows little about the boy, only that he once helped Abel survive the Malefic Mountains. Arthur warns that provoking someone of Rio's power could endanger the kingdom, so they agree to keep his involvement off official records. The next morning, Rio runs with his friends, urging them to keep moving forward despite their pace. Later, drawn by the scent of food, he follows it to a restaurant, where he finds Sarah enjoying curry. She invites him to join, and they share a meal together. As they talk, Sarah learns he's already D rank, impressed by his skill. She reveals she's a sword instructor under Margrave Lune and challenges him to a sparring match. During the duel, Sarah enhances her speed with wind magic, breaking Rio's sword. Despite his loss, she's thrilled. No one has ever withstood her technique. When Rio mentions his mentor, Sarah realizes he was trained by the Fairy King, astonished by his connection. Before she can say more, Relita arrives to summon her. As she leaves, Sarah tells Relita to escort Rio home, calling him someone important to her. Outside, Rio meets Hugh, who invites him into his carriage. On the way, Hugh praises his bravery but reminds him of his disobedience. As punishment, Rio is assigned to escort a group of merchants on a round trip to Whitnash. A few days later, Niels visits Rio in their dorm to ask for his help. His village has requested a monster hunt, but the quest is open only to D-ranked adventurers. Since everyone in their group is E rank except Rio, Niels asks him to form a temporary party so they can take it. Amon says the enemies are just goblins and skeletons, nothing serious. But Ito points out that those two don't usually appear together. Rio laughs, realizing he hasn't fought skeletons before, and agrees to join. They rush to the guild, where Hugh, the guildmaster, questions their decision. The village is far, and two parties, one E rank and one D rank, had already failed. The D rank team even reported that the villagers refused to cooperate, which surprises Niels, knowing how kind his people are. Seeing his determination, Hugh approves the request but warns them to stay cautious. He reminds them that Ito, their only healer, will be vital to their survival, and that Rio still has a few days left before his escort mission, just enough time to finish this one. The next day, Rio and his team head to the village of Cagliati. Thanks to their training, the trip goes smoothly. The villagers warmly welcome Niels, surprising Rio, who thought Niels had been cast out. Slightly embarrassed, Niels admits there's some truth to it. They soon meet the village chief, Bulan, who happily greets them. Bulan explains the monster problem and hopes things go better this time, especially since Niels knows the village's ways. When asked about the past failures, Bulan reveals that the first group entered the forbidden eastern forest and came back injured. Because of that, the villagers lost trust in outsiders and turned away the next party that arrived. Niels understands why the villagers acted that way, but knows his friends won't get it without knowing the full story. Since it involves a secret, he decides to ask the council for permission to tell them. That night, they stay at Niels' home, where his siblings welcome them warmly. They talk about how Niels once dreamed of being an adventurer, but stayed behind after losing his parents. Later, he returns from the council with approval to share the secret, revealing that their village is protected by a guardian beast and a sacred shrine. Rio instantly imagines an epic battle with a corrupted beast like in anime. But Niels cuts off his fantasy and tells him to rest. They'll see the shrine tomorrow. The next morning, Bulan leads the group to the spot where the goblins were last seen. Ito and Amon find fresh tracks, confirming a nearby nest. Moments later, Rio senses movement. Goblins are closing in. They quickly execute a plan. Eliminate all but one and let it lead them to the nest. Rio traps the enemies in ice, while the others finish them off, sparing one to flee. They follow it to a cave swarming with goblins. Rio freezes the guards, and his teammates cut them down until a massive goblin general appears. The group braces for battle, but Rio chains it with ice, giving Niels the opening to land the final blow. Victorious, they collect the magic stone and return to the village. The elder welcomes them and invites them to visit the shrine. On the way, Ito notices a strange ornament on the elder's staff. She explains that it bears the crest of the Earth Mother Goddess, one of 7 ancient deities, though only the Goddess of Light is widely worshipped today. The elder adds that their village has served the Earth Goddess for generations, granting them healing powers without incantations. They eventually reach a cave where the guardian beast resides. The elder calls out, and a massive talking wolf emerges. Kuzen, the guardian beast. Rio feels a bit let down, expecting something darker, but Kuzen's calm presence is powerful. He addresses Rio directly, saying his aura feels familiar, likely due to his bond with fairies. Kuzen explains that 30 skeletons and a powerful boss are sealed within the shrine, and the group must destroy them to cleanse the corruption. Following his lead, they fight through the skeletons. Ito's light magic wipes out the lesser ones. Amon and Niels open the gate, and Rio empowers their weapons with ice. When the boss emerges, Rio freezes the ground, making it slip while the team attacks relentlessly. After a fierce battle, they finally take it down. Inside, they find a statue of the goddess holding a shattered sphere, the source of the corruption. The elder seals the shrine with her magic, restoring peace to the land. With the mission complete, they head home. Along the way, they realize nearly 300 days have passed since they became adventurers. Niels and Ito plan to rent a house and invite Rio and Amon to join. Amon agrees, while Rio decides to think it over. His journey is far from done. Soon after, the group arrived in Whitnash, and their client guided them to the inn where they would be staying. The guards were given 10 full days to enjoy the festival before returning to Luna. As soon as the briefing ended, Rio rushed straight to the food stalls, forcing the other 2 boys to follow. They quickly found themselves enjoying Whitnash's street food, many dishes carrying flavors reminiscent of Earth. The next day, a long line of guests formed outside Whitnash's gates. The delay came from one high-profile visitor with incomplete paperwork, forcing everyone else to wait. Among them was Oscar, the strongest wizard of the Dabui Empire. While enduring the holdup, he considered the real reason the Emperor had sent him and Princess Fiona to the festival. Oscar suspected the trip was a cover for the Emperor to deal with hidden political threats without involving his daughter. Fiona, a magical prodigy and the commander of the court mages, was someone the Emperor wanted to protect from his harsher decisions. Oscar believed there might be rebellious nobles the Emperor planned to eliminate. But without evidence, he focused on his main responsibility, keeping Fiona safe. That evening, a formal gathering was held for the visiting nobles, with Fiona attending alongside her older brother, Conrad. While Conrad handled the social and diplomatic conversations, he noticed Fiona growing tired. She slipped away to her room soon after, choosing rest over the festivities she never enjoyed, and wishing she were training with her troops instead. The next day, the festival officially began. Rio sat stiffly among the special guests until his friends finally spotted him. Niels couldn't help staring at Princess Fiona, and Ito quickly reminded him she was far beyond his reach. Abel's party arrived shortly after. They explained that Abel was acting as the Guildmaster's representative for the event. Lin then noticed a strong wind magic barrier surrounding the VIP area. Rumors claimed it came from a family treasure passed down through the Whitnash Lords, an artifact capable of generating wind magic. It was inefficient, but perfect for protecting high-ranking nobles during major gatherings. Talk shifted to Fiona, and Lin pointed out that if she was here, her lieutenant was likely nearby as well. The group recalled the infamous stories about the Inferno Magician, a man rumored to have wiped out 1,000 soldiers with a single spell. Whether true or not, none of them wanted to meet someone that dangerous. After exchanging a few more words, Abel's party moved on, and Rio and his friends continued exploring. As they turned away, Oscar walked past, and the two sides narrowly avoided bumping into each other before heading off. Oscar spent the rest of his time navigating the crowded streets to gather snacks for Fiona, all while dealing with his assistant's reminders. Meanwhile, Abel crossed paths with Prince Conrad, who briefly noted that Abel seemed familiar before leaving the conversation behind. Fiona returned to her room to rest. Oscar arrived soon after with the snacks, exhausted from the crowd. He mentioned encountering someone who moved more like a swordsman than a mage. Then he used his magic to warm the food, and Fiona happily settled in to eat, while Oscar quietly resumed his duties. The next day, Rio and his friends watched an archery event, where Amin and Ito joined the competition. They tried to hit the floating targets above the sea, but missed every shot. Rio then asked Niels if he wanted to try, but he admitted he had never used a bow. Abel arrived soon after, amused by the scene, and Rio pushed him to participate. Despite not being in the mood, Abel stepped up and landed a clean bullseye on the farthest target, drawing loud cheers from the crowd. His moment didn't last long. Lihia appeared and, unhappy that Abel hadn't visited her earlier, immediately dragged him away. Niels was left starstruck by Abel's performance, while Ito shifted his attention to admiring Lihia back in Luna. Sarah searched for Rio, only to be informed by the guild receptionist that he was currently out on a quest and wouldn't be returning anytime soon. The next day, Rio and Ito watched a boat race featuring Niels and Amon. The event quickly spiraled into chaos when Dan, a known troublemaker, joined the race. Once the rules allowed mid-race combat, Niels and Dan clashed with their oars, broke them, then grabbed their partner's oars to continue fighting. Their boats stalled right at the finish line, letting everyone else pass, and the two eventually toppled into the water. Despite losing, their brawl entertained the crowd enough to earn them a special reward. Later, the group checked out a futuristic ship powered by alchemy and magic stones, explained by Hu. They then visited a weapon shop where Ito purchased a semi-automatic crossbow to strengthen their mid-range combat. With that, they went back to enjoying the festival. That evening, Abel attended a gathering for the special guests and briefly reunited with Conrad and Fiona afterward. He found himself missing his sword, unaware that the protective wind barrier was about to fail. Moments later, the treasure powering the barrier malfunctioned. The magician scrambled to respond, but assassins struck first, eliminating them instantly. Theo sensed something was wrong, but before she could move, the attackers unleashed a devastating blow on the garden.
If you've enjoyed this so far, drop down below and show us some love by liking, subscribe and sharing. Next chapter will come out soon enough if not already, but for the meantime, check out our other videos on the screen. I highly recommend The Daily Life of the Immortal King. The link is in the comments section below. Thank you for watching until the end. Subscribe for more videos like this.